The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thank you very much for joining me from around the planet, wherever you are. If you're watching from the website, if you're watching on social media, thank you very much indeed for being here. You are part of the most intellectually mature audience in all of Radioland, ladies and gentlemen. Today, tackling the latest twist, another ridiculous twist, but you got to talk about it because the liberals are throwing it out there. The Jeffrey Epstein saga continues. A November 12th, 2025 email drop from the House Democrats featuring the dog that don't bark line about President Trump and so forth and the connections he supposedly had. All right. Democrats throwing out crap nonsense because they are thoroughly embarrassed and defeated with regards to their shutdown failing. They have no rudder, no direction. They can't do anything except cause chaos, division, and now this. So they've got to try to change the news cycle, and that's what this amounts to. I'm going to walk you through the facts, and I'm going to give you unique angles that you don't hear anywhere else, certainly not in the lamestream media, and why this story and these emails actually exonerate Trump. No BS here, just straight conversation with me and you, I promise you. But first off, we've got to look at the context of what these Democrat commune socialists are doing. Now, in case you're living under a rock, Epstein is the disgraced financier who is convicted of sex trafficking, died of suicide in 2019 while awaiting trial, so forth and so on. The suicide story is a story for another day, folks. All right. Now, his network of people that he knew was a who's who of the elites in America and around the world. Bill Clinton with 26 flights on the Lolita Express, right? Prince Andrew, a lot of trips down there. And he's since just in the past 2 weeks, he's been stripped of all of his titles in the royal family. Because of his connect. Now, Prince Andrew is one thing, and I don't make it a habit of following the news of the royal family. I do think the pageantry and all that is pretty cool. But I know Sarah Fergie, the former Duchess of York. She was in the hospital when my youngest son, Michael, was born, and we had a great conversation. She was in Kansas because she was back in that time, she was working for Weight Watchers and kind of on a tour of the United States. And her PR lady was having a baby, and it just so happened that we both had children who were in the NICU. My son, Michael, has Down syndrome, and he spent the first couple of weeks of his life in the NICU there. And so Sarah, the Duchess of York, Fergie, came over. We had a great conversation for about 45 minutes. Reassuring me, she did, about Michael meeting all of the goals of a typical kid. Might take him a little bit longer to get there, but he's going to meet the goals that you set. You're going to have a wonderful, blessed life, da-da-da-da-da. And we got letters, we got autographed pictures from her. Michael get Christmas cards from her. She always struck me as very nice and very caring. So I have a soft, tender spot in my heart for Sarah, the Duchess, former Duchess of York. So there, because of how she treated me and my son. All right. Now, today, the House Democrats, led by Representative Robert Garcia, released emails from Epstein's estate, hyping them up, of course, as serious and disturbing to pressure the Department of Justice for full records. And then immediately this morning, you saw the Krasenstein kooks. Brian and Ed, is that their first name? The Krasenstein kooks, man. They are under payroll. They are under orders, like many of the liberal talking heads on social media with huge audiences. They get their directions and their orders from the hierarchy of the radical liberal left, and they are given marching orders to go and disperse the nonsense. And boy, did they. Now, let's read these emails closely. Let's take a look. Let's read them. They're out there on X, and USA Today posted them. Anybody can go read them for themselves. But the key email here is from April 2nd of 2011, all right? And Jeffrey Epstein is sending an email to Ghislaine Maxwell. And he says, quote, "I want you to realize that dog that hasn't barked is Trump." And then there's a redacted victim's name there. who spent hours at my house with him, and he has never once been mentioned. Okay, so there's the email. Now, the White House tells us that the redacted victim's name is Virginia Giuffre. Okay. She's the one who, unfortunately, not too long ago committed suicide. She repeatedly said that Trump was not involved in any wrongdoing, repeatedly, in deposition after deposition. Now, the Democrats redacted her name, which is convenient because since she can't rebut any of the information that we want to discuss, right? Very convenient. Dirty tricks, dirty tricks. So the line, that dog didn't bark. That's for all of you who are educated in classic literature. I happen to have a master's degree in curriculum and instruction and used to be a high school teacher. The dog, I really do. The dog that didn't bark is a Sherlock Holmes reference. And it means the absence of something expected is the clue. All right. Epstein, in this email, what this all means is that his email to Ghislaine Maxwell is that he's just baffled. He's perplexed why Trump's not being implicated, despite being in close proximity to the situation. If Trump were guilty, my friends, the victims would have named, there's this thing called the sisterhood. I'm going to get to them in a minute. Survivors of the Epstein horror that have come together for years and demanded, lists and so forth and so on. They would have named Trump in a heartbeat if Trump, none of these people have named Trump. None. This would have come out years ago if Trump was involved. But in thousands of pages, FBI dumps, lawsuits, Maxwell's trial herself, Trump's absent from all of it. No island visits, no black book dirt tying him to any kind of a crime. He did go from New York to Palm Beach, Florida, to Mar-a-Lago when his plane was in the shop. And he got a ride from Epstein long before any knowledge of these crimes was known to the public, long before Lolita Island was purchased and used, long before any of that. Okay. So he flew once to New York or to Palm Beach. That's the logs, the flight logs. You see Trump's name there. But yeah, they palled around for a while. Trump was never like a best buddy of his. But yeah, there are some pictures taken of him at nightclubs. Trump was a millionaire playboy, you guys, but he wasn't a pedophile. It's dirt that the radical left tries to throw up every once in a while. And again, this week, with their disastrous loss in the shutdown, they're trying to change the news cycle. All right. So another email dated January 31st, 2019. Epstein, again, is the author. He's writing to to Michael Wolff, who is an author, an anti-Trump guy through and through. And it says this. First of all, there's a redacted victim's name there. Redacted name, Mar-a-Lago. Trump said he asked Ghislaine to stop me, to resign, never a member ever. Of course, he knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine to stop. Okay, now that's a choppy email. I just read it to you word for word. Victim, name redacted, Mar-a-Lago, period. Trump said he asked Ghislaine to stop me, to resign, comma, doesn't make sense to me, but that's what the email says. Never a member ever, period. Of course, he knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine to stop, period. All right, that's the email. Now, let me explain what all of that gobbledygook means. The radical liberal left is twisting it, but actually, it exonerates him. It shows us that Trump intervened. He asked Maxwell, Ghislaine, to stop the recruiting of girls and women at Mar-a-Lago. And it aligns with President Trump's 2004 ban of Epstein from that club after Epstein was creeping on a member's teenage daughter there. Trump put a dead stop to it. There is not any participation. It is Trump shutting it down early before the scandals even were public, my friends. So Michael Wolff, the anti-Trump author, gets a hold of this information. There's no bombshell. He's trying to write an anti-Trump book, and he writes an email December 16th, 2015. Okay, Wolf to Epstein. He says this quote: "I think you should let him hang himself. If he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the house, then that gives you a valuable public relations political currency." Okay. That's Wolf scheming and advising Epstein on leveraging Trump's denials. Folks, that proves Trump was distancing himself, not entangling himself. So it's a smear. The White House calls it such. It is. Caroline Leavitt came out, said the Democrats leaked the selective emails to create another fake narrative, ignoring Joffrey's exonerations of Trump. Joffrey, the victim who unfortunately committed suicide, the real victim of Andrew and Epstein and so forth. She never mentioned Trump in thousands of pages, dozens and multiple dozens of hours of testimony. So, and of course, Trump denies trafficking knowledge. He didn't know about it. If dirt existed about that, it would have dropped during the Mueller investigation. Ladies and gentlemen, let's think it through. What about the impeachment trials, the fake nonsense that they put forth? I mean, it would have come out in all of that, but it didn't because it doesn't exist. And if I were to put on my HR hat and lens, I did my fair share of investigations when I was in corporate America. Associations happen in elite circles. There's no question about that. But actions count, my friends. Trump booted Epstein out before the crimes were known, and others like Clinton, however, continued to party on with Epstein. I'll give you, and again, my unique take on this. This is deep state deflection amid the 2025 wins that Trump is enjoying. It's deflection from the catastrophe of the shutdown. The Democrats lost. The Dems post all of this stuff. After Joffrey's dead, we can't question her about any of it. So isn't that all just lovely and convenient? It's desperation from the radical left. And everybody with any shred of intellectual maturity can see it. So the Krasensteins, who are after nothing but clickbait, clearly not after credibility, they'll post the stuff and hope that 1 million people respond because they get paid for the clicks. Now, that group I told you about, the Survivor Sisters, they're a real group. It refers to a group of women, survivors of Jeffrey Epstein, who alleged that they were sexually abused and trafficked by Epstein and Maxwell and some associates of his and so forth. These gals have bonded together, God bless them, as a sisterhood to advocate for justice, transparency, and the full release of the Epstein-related files and records. God bless them. The Survivor Sisters always push for identities of the people who were involved in this, people who abused other people, women, children, girls, and so forth, who trafficked women, who did all of this with Epstein. And you know what? Amongst all of their work that they've done, President Trump's name never comes up with them because he didn't do anything. There's no witness that ties him to this. Epstein's honeypot has missed him because he smelled the sleaze. In other words, Epstein couldn't tag this on Trump because Trump's smart enough to smell the abuse and the crimes and got the hell out of there. So that's what we're facing, ladies and gentlemen. Today in the social media circles, you'll see this. You'll probably see it linger for a day or two. That's the news cycle. But it's only because the radical left liberal commune socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, has no rudder. They have no direction. They are not able to clearly and effectively self-reflect on why they're losing. Well, they're losing their grip on power and they're freaking out literally because they see Trump every day winning and Trump every day unraveling the agenda of the radical liberal left. That's why they have the No King's Day marches. That's why they do the shutdown and it's why they do everything, because they want to transform America away from the divine providence of God and the intent of the founding fathers. Remember, that's their Messiah's order, Barack Obama. We've got to fundamentally transform America. Well, they're trying to do it in every way they can, the radical left. The good news is multiple millions of you understand that and you see it. And you're coming over to the right side every day and leaving the party that is no longer the Democrat Party. It's certainly not the Democrat Party of John F. Kennedy. My gosh, it's not even the Democrat Party of Bill Clinton anymore, the Commune Socialist Party. And ladies and gentlemen, if you want to get unique content like this, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. The handle is at the right side Doug Billings. That's over on YouTube at the right side Doug Billings. And head over to my website, dougbillings.us. And while you're over there, prayerfully consider setting up a monthly recurring donation to the program of $5 or so a month. That'll help the program continue. Now, I never charge you to watch this. It's always free. But this is capitalism, after all, ladies and gentlemen, and I do have to make a living. So if you would, prayerfully consider that contribution to the show over at dougbillings.us. Share the program, share it with your friends, because it spreads the truth and it puts a lid on the abject nonsense that is continually perpetrated and cascaded down upon us by the radical liberal mob in this country. Remember, again, we're in this thing together, ladies and gentlemen. As always, believe it. For the Republic. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the set of my show, Doug Billings. Hey, my good friends at EMP Shield, that's electromagnetic pulse, in case you're from Raytown, Missouri. Electromagnetic pulse could wipe out your home electrical system, could wipe out your vehicle. And thanks to the radical liberal agenda that was put forth under Administrator Biden and Vice Pretender Harris, there are lots of people in this country who want to do us harm. And maybe an EMP device would be their chosen weapon. But EMP Shield gives you a device that can protect you. This little baby here goes on your home outlets, a computer, a router, whatever you want to protect. And then they also have a larger model like this. You can still hold it in the palm of your hand that goes on your vehicle battery so that you can get out of trouble from point A to point B. EMPshield.com. Promo code Doug, ladies and gentlemen. Save yourself, save your property. EMPshield.com. Promo code Doug. We're in this together, folks. Believe it. For the Republic. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.